Hello, Di. So today we are going to be talking about how to figure out what it is you really want to be doing. I am here with Di to talk all about this today in our weekly or bi-weekly webinars. 2 weeks ago, we were talking all about abundance because I jumped straight into the goodness of, oh my goodness, how am I going to make more money? I'm a full-time entrepreneur now. I want financial success. How do I do it? And our conversation, although very insightful, led me to believe that maybe we even need to step back and really take it one step at a time. And I feel like the first step is actually figuring out, okay, what is it that I should be doing that's going to make me all this money and bring in all the abundance? So for those of you who have not met Di yet, you can follow her at DiLive Mentor on Instagram. She is absolutely amazing. She is a success coach that specializes in the Bob Proctor Gallagher Institute. I guess it's just called the Proctor Gallagher Institute. And it's, oh my goodness, amazing. She's inspired me to, I've started reading Think and Grow Rich, and I'm taking all this juiciness in. So again, thank you so much, Di, for joining us, and let's get straight into it. So really, I think the first thing to address is how to actually, what are the first steps to take when it comes to being the leader of your own life and feeling like you're in control and that you actually, are fostering what it is that you should be doing in the first place?
Well, I like that word leadership, because whenever we're talking about leadership, the very best leaders in history and now and forever, it's always been about inspiring people around you to be the best they can be, okay, and helping them see the good in them. So if you're leading yourself, the very first step is to help yourself see the good in you. So, it sounds a bit weird, but really you've got to get to know who you are. So the very first step in leading your own life, leading yourself, is to be able to have a relationship with yourself. Like, get to know who you are. What do you like? What makes you feel like you're being, a worthwhile contributor to the world around you. And I mean your world of influence, not necessarily the larger world.
It's interesting that you say that, because automatically I'm thinking, oh, well, I don't have the time for that. I mean, I have a job, I have this, I have that. And even right now, when I do actually have the time and space in my life to explore this, because I'm not actually full-time working right now, that sort of trigger already comes up. And I feel like that's what's going to be coming up for a lot of people watching this. They're going to be like, oh, well, I don't have the time to just take a walk in the park every day and think about what I like and what I want to do. But I just want to share, coming from my perspective, where it's like, even when you're actually gifted that time and that space, it's still not easy or fun, or it's still not necessarily just super accessible and you feel like you can just do it. Why is it that it's difficult?
And that's a great question, Kiki. Why is it so difficult? And you would know, walking the walk that you're doing at the moment, that, like you say, you've got the time, but you still feel inclined not to sit down and do it. And that's the programming. So we talked a little bit 2 weeks ago about the paradigm and the programming that we all have in our subconscious mind. And so even when you consciously think of something that you would like to do, often we go and do the complete opposite. So again, it's about getting to know you. And yes, it does take time, but that's why, when I talk about a programming, there's only two ways to change that programming. One is by an emotional impact, which really belts us out of the ballpark that we're comfortable in. Okay, now that often doesn't result in a good change, but it certainly does stir us up. The other way is by this constant spaced repetition and elite level coaching. Now, I add on the elite level coaching. You can do something via repetition, but our programming naturally says we won't do that on our own. Okay, I have a son-in-law who's a professional bike rider. He knows how to ride a bike. He doesn't need to be taught how to ride a bike. His coach isn't teaching him to ride a bike. His coach is making sure that he does the constant spaced repetition that he needs to do in order to get the success that he seeks.
So I guess the first question on that then is not necessarily, okay, how do you do it? How do you figure out what it is that you like? I almost want to first ask, how is it that you make yourself even do it in the first place? Like, is it a matter of scheduling it in, or like, I guess obviously working with a coach like yourself helps, but what if you can't necessarily hire a coach, or are there tips on like how to actually like even just do it in the first
Really
place?
interesting. I don't know if you've ever had a pet dog, but years ago I had this little poodle, and taking him down the beach, and I was told poodles love water, right? They love water. And so there I am, leading him into the water with his lead. Well, he literally had his paws in the sand and was just, he did not want to go in the water. And that's sort of a good picture of what happens with us. The more we focus on something that we're not doing, the less we're doing it. Whenever you're feeling force or I should, it's counterproductive. If you look at it this way, here's you trying to do it, here's the force that you're working against, you end up going nowhere. And so in order to move forward, I don't know anyone, and in fact my mentor Bob Proctor is 85 this year. He doesn't know anyone that's been able to do it on their own. So people do go through life, and you can just get that incremental growth and sort of work your way. But if you really want to change some programming, you are going to need some help around that. Yes, a good start is to start looking at, and this will take time, look at your life, which is what I coach people through. Look at what you're doing currently. What are you happy with? What are you not happy with? What do you enjoy doing? You're doing the research all the time. You don't necessarily need to spend hours sitting and thinking, but just be more aware during a day. Do I like this? Do I not like this? And start taking notice. Everybody should have a little, journal book, if you like. Yeah. And just each day, right at the end of the day, what things do I know about my day today? So you can be researching. You are researching all the time. Every single day you're figuring out what you like, what you don't like. So it's just that often people, like you correctly said, we shove it down. We don't actually even want to focus on it, because if we do, then we start discovering some things that mean we're going to take some action which we might feel uncomfortable with.
Totally. And when you make it in the perspective that it's like a chore or something that you have to or should do, you don't do it. And that's something that I'm realizing right now. This weekend, I felt organically called to want to increase, it's so silly, my Instagram following. And so I'm doing all these courses, and I'm like actually having a really great time, just like, oh yeah, and like I need to change my bio image and like stuff like that. And it was interesting because over the past year or so, I've had so many opportunities with people trying to coach me, or partnerships where it's like, Kate, you need to grow your Instagram following like this, like that. You know what I mean? Oh, why don't you have Pinterest? Like, get on it. And I just felt so like, oh yeah, okay, I need to do it. And it felt so like I didn't want to. And so it's interesting that just when you do it, when it's not a chore, when it's not kind of told to you like it's homework, it can feel so much better. And so is that kind of what you're saying, where you also mentioned that you have to work with someone? So it's not just necessarily good enough to just kind of tell your friend to hold you accountable. It is a matter of actually finding a coach. Yeah,
I do believe that, but I also believe, and this is, I guess, a difference between me and many other coaches. You mentioned it, how people were trying to get you to do something, and you weren't really in that space. Like it wasn't that you felt you wanted to, but you were scared. It was really, you didn't feel to. And so when you went to do it, it was very mechanical. It was very clunky. Yeah. I speak to people all over, and some people it resonates and they're like, yeah, it's time for me to get some help. Sure, they might not have the money. They might be scared, but they inside intuitively feel, just like you have this weekend, it's time for me to do this with my Instagram. And then enjoy doing it more. Okay, you might have still had some resistance. You think, oh, I'm not sure how to do it, but you had that desire. Desire is the first step, and often we squash the desire so people might be listening right now and say, no, I'd really love to work with a coach, but I don't have the money. And so they squash the desire. And that's where we need to hand it over to spirit. It's always spirit first. Go with the spirit of what you're feeling. If you don't have the spirit in you, like when people were trying to get you to do it, then you're wasting your energy. It's like just banging up against, the window pane trying to get out.
Now, how do you know if you're following your spirit and your intuition and your true inner, guidance and alignment, or you're just following, what's the other word for it when you just eat a donut because
Mechanically.
yes, or just kind of urging or like following your urges and that sort of thing. Is there a way to decode? Because I want to do a billion things that cost $1 billion. Should I just do them all and be like, Spirit, you got my back?
Well, the first step is, as we just said, the desire. Now, when you think about desire, what lets you know that you desire something? It's your feeling, right? You didn't have any desire to change your Instagram. You didn't have any feeling around it. So feeling is what will let you know whether you're on the right track or not. Now, it gets a bit tricky because people say, well, I do want to do that, but then I don't feel confident, or I don't feel, well, that's a different feeling. The feeling is you do want what you want. You do have the desire to do it. And then the next step is getting that very clear image of what it is. The fact that you then don't feel confident doesn't say that you don't want it. You're just talking about the how, right? And as we spoke about last week, that's not our department. Our department is what do we want? And all of us absolutely know what we want, but we've got a lot of programming over the top of that. Things like, oh, well, I can't make money doing what I love. That's not a real job. All these things that we've been told and perhaps even demonstrated by others who have failed. I like to say they gave up, or they didn't understand what they had that they could have worked with. Because again, if you don't have the coaching, if you don't have somebody that's done what you're wanting to do, and I don't necessarily mean like I coach lots of people in lots of different fields, but I'm not everything they are, but I do understand that they have a mind and that they live in a world with universal law. So I understand that and can help them understand it.
Yeah. And that was actually almost answers the question that I was going to ask that I wrote down here. And it's something that I'm struggling with right now. What if, yes, I have an idea of where I want to be and a general gist of what I want to do, but it still feels really vague, and it still feels, yes, I don't know how it would make money specifically. And when I was actually reading Think and Grow Rich last night, he mentions, the author talks about 31 pitfalls of unsuccessful people. And one of them, I can't remember exactly how he titled it, but it was basically not having a plan or a strategy or a focus, or kind of basically just not, I don't know if you remember what it was, but it was essentially, I remember it was the second one, and I was like, shit, I don't even have that. And so how can I go on and be successful if I really don't even know what I'm being successful at?
Yeah.
What is the goal?
And that's exactly the key. You've hit it on the head there, because it wasn't the first thing he mentioned. And if you go and look at the 13 principles,
yes,
there's 31 principles, and really the 31st is any others you can think of. So he came up with 30, and the 31st one, he said, there's probably a dozen more, write your own. Yeah. But there's 13 definite principles for success. Now, they can be summarized, and he says this in the book, summarized into 4 areas. One is desire. Number 1, desire. What do you want? And you know what you want, but the very next thing you think is, I don't know how I'm going to get that. And so you squash it. But the first is desire. The second one is faith. Okay, now we talk a lot about faith when I'm working with people. And it's not, I don't mean faith in God, but I mean faith in knowing how you've been created, what is at work here in the spiritual laws, in the universal laws, in spirit, as in we can't see them. They're not physical things we can see. So that's the second one. You need a desire, you need faith, then you need a plan. He talks about a plan.
Yes, that also freaked me out, because I'm like, I don't have a plan.
And people take that as knowing every step along the way. But when you have a desire, so you've got to do it in the order. When you have a desire, your plan will start to unfold when you're in the spirit of that desire, not trying to then mechanically work out how it will happen. Your plan will unfold right where you stand with what you have. So I say to people, you might not have the whole amount of money now to work with me, but that's okay. What do you have? And let's get started, and it unravels. The same with what you're doing, Kiki. You've started on this journey. you have a picture, you're telling me it's not real clear. Well, that's your first step. Create the space, get your desire, really tap in. What is it I really want? And that's what I teach people how to do, and help them in that process. And then once you've got your desire and you understand, the faith starts to develop, the plan starts to emerge. And then the fourth one is persistence. Now, the persistence that we're talking about is not hammering away. Yes, you will have to act and you will have to do things, because spirit works through us. You know, spirit isn't going to just give you something. You're going to have to move and do some things in order to get it. But the persistence is more about keeping the vision of what you want. Because a lot of people, when they get roadblocks, they start to wobble, and then they start to lose the vision.
Exactly.
So you have to consistently hold that very clear vision based on your desire.
And so if I understand correctly, really the first step and the most important thing is to, I don't even want to say strengthen your desire. It's more so find the desire that is already there. And so how can we do that without getting stuck? Because right away when I'm thinking about how to do that, I almost want to strengthen my desire with the how-tos, or with the justifications, or with and because this will make X amount of money if I do it in this way. So how can we continue to, again, I don't want to jump ahead. I just want to tap into how to really foster that desire and find it for myself.
I love the way your mind works, because I can feel that you really do want to just not race ahead. Everything in us, you know, like, again, I hark back to our paradigm, is all about the how, you know, because we're taught that way. We're taught at school to know everything. We know the stuff, and then we can go and do it. But the programming inside of you is the action. That's the seat of action. And so you do need to get in touch with your desire. And you said to grow it. And that's absolutely what will happen. You've had an inspiration, and that's come from inside of you, right? And universal mind. So you've had this, oh, I want to do this. Now you need to grow it by really getting in touch with that. Really, you know, writing it down, playing around with it, thinking about it, not how to make it, but about it. What does it look like? Mm-hmm. What's happening in your life now that you have that? Imagine you're there and build that picture. The more you build it with repetition, that's what gets you emotionally involved in it. It's very few of us have a desire and immediately we're right there emotionally. We might get a shot of that and think, oh, that would be really great. But then the next thing that happens is we think, oh, I don't know how. And that emotion tends to weaken our connection to it. Exactly. So I would say the biggest word here is let. Let yourself imagine it. Let yourself play around with that and stop trying to figure out the how. Yeah. That's the hardest work for all of us.
I just realized that I'm figuring out, I want to know the how of how to not figure out the how. You know what I mean? Like right away, I'm like, even when it comes to like, yeah, no, I just want to deeply in tune with the let. I'm like, but how exactly do
I do that? Yeah.
And because even when you say repetition, so right away I want to write down like what specifically does that mean? So is it like half an hour in the morning, half an hour at night where I'm like envisioning it? Yeah. Or is it writing it down, or is it both? And like what sort of, is it okay to kind of think about it and really visualize in the morning and then get on with the rest of your day, or will it never work like that?
Absolutely it will. Absolutely it will. And again, if I had to summarize what I do, I help people get to know themselves, which is where we started today, is everybody is different, but we all work the same. Okay. So our computers, they all work the same, but they're programmed a bit differently, as in whatever you might have programs installed on your computer, not the same as mine. That's how we are. So I can tell you a few ideas that work for people, but it's really important that you get in touch with what feels right for you, okay? Because we do tend to quickly go to the mechanical. I'll do this, and then it will work. It has to be a connection. So you have to be connected to the vision of your desire being fulfilled, okay? And so yes, reading it, You can read it on your phone out loud and record your voice talking about it and then listen to that throughout the day. Definitely.
Yeah, my friend was mentioning that. That's a good idea, actually, because that's a good way when you're lazy at the end of the day and you're like, I don't want to have to dream. Because literally, some nights this past 2 weeks, I've been like, I'm too tired to dream. Lying down in my bed doing nothing, I'm like, I'd rather just go to bed. And so I'm thinking if I could just listen to it, that might be a better strategy.
It's interesting. Yes, that will get it in. The repetition will get it into your subconscious mind. But isn't it interesting if, for example, Kiki, if I said to you, look, you're going to build a wonderful business doing what you're doing and you're going to earn $1 million a year, and you're just going to help so many people. You just need to, I don't know, walk down the street and turn right. How eager would you be to walk down the street and turn right?
I've already done it. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So what's interesting is, and this is why the work is not 5 quick steps to getting there. What's interesting is even though we're saying it's our desire, and I don't doubt your desire, I don't doubt my desire, when we go to take action on it, like you said, we feel lazy. We don't want to dream. Why don't we want to dream? If we know that's going to produce the result, one, we're lazy, but we're lazy because we don't actually believe it. Because if we believed it, if we believed it was walking down the street and turning right, we would do it, knowing that we were going to arrive. So again, it's that programming. Our programming, the paradigm is so insidious and so sneaky. It's very subtle and very strong. So you'll find yourself doing things that work in opposition to what you really desire because that's the way you're programmed. Okay, and that's why it helps to have somebody outside of you, and I have mentors the same, okay, who can, I'll talk to them and they'll say, do you see what's happening? So we need people to help us see it. And well, I guess what happens when you work with somebody on a regular basis is they help you see it. And so it doesn't get a chance to take a hold. Do you know?
Oh my God, absolutely. That's why I wish I could talk to you every day, because exactly when we're talking, it makes so much sense. And you're right, even though I think of myself as a spiritual person, and of course, yes, I believe it. And it's so easy and, just raise your vibration and do all these things. And it's like it's universal law. Yet, obviously, there is a piece of me inside of me that doesn't, because there are moments where I'm like, okay, no, actually, I need to get 8 hours sleep so I can do X, 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 X tomorrow. And so I don't have time to dream. Like, we'll figure that out once I'm once I'm already a billionaire famous person. Yeah.
And that's what you said today was really good when you said lots of people say, I don't have time, I've got to do this and that. And then you said, well, when you do have the time, and I actually had a client last week say exactly that. We've been very focused on really getting the image, and she'd put the time aside and she was ready to go and do it. And she observed that when she went to go and do it, she did have her voice inside say, this is just hard. I'm just going to go and do something I enjoy and that's easy,
Exactly.
And that right there was such growth for her, because she realized none of us are going to get from where we are to where we want to go, staying in the comfort zone that we're in. Okay, we're going to get comfortable becoming uncomfortable. That's what will get you there. Okay, but the desire has to be so strong and clear. But you still need help. Just keep like the cyclist, just keeping on track. It's so easy for us to go, well, I know that and I know this, but we don't do what we know.
Yeah. Totally. And I think that it also comes back to what you said about what I said, where it's like even if when you have the time and space, it's still really hard. And I feel like probably people watching this that do have really intense, long-hour jobs are going to be like, oh, you lazy bitch. But in reality, I almost think, no, all of those jobs, and thinking about when I was working long hours at other jobs, it's just a distraction. Absolutely. And it's a really great, easy way to pretend to the rest of the world that it's like, oh, no, I'm busy and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And it's like a really easy way out of actually facing what it is that you want and how to get there, because that's the hard work. And that it's almost like how I'm also studying a little bit of breath work now, and we are never actually really breathing because we're like too busy to be breathing. Do you know what I mean? We're like just always on to the next thing. It's like, I don't have time. Like, I'm going to breathe later. Like, obviously.
God knew what he was doing when he made it involuntary to breathe, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And so I feel like that's how it is with this.
It's true. And I have lived that. I lived that for so many years, where I did so many things and deliberately, subconsciously though, were bringing them in because I had desires of what I knew was me, but I was just putting all this stuff on top to keep them down, because if I didn't, and like you said, if I had the time, well, then I'm confronted with the fact that, oh, I actually have to do this. Now, as much as I wanted that, it scared me also, you know? So,
and I just have to realize that how it's not, the path is not so certain and so clear. For me, I had a blog on the side, and I had these little projects, and it was easy to think that, oh, well, my blog would be way more popular, but I have a full-time job. Or like, oh, well, you know, I would be Instagram famous, but like some of us have jobs and stuff like that. And then when you actually, it's like the universe was like, okay, go do your blog, like go run with it. And then right away it's sort of like, oh, well, but like I'm doing this, like it's almost like there's pressure now, because it's like, okay, you can go and live your dream. And it's like, actually, I'd rather just someone give me a job so I don't have to 100% face it. And so it's almost getting over that hump as well.
And that's what you start to realize when you understand the lawful process of the way we think. We easily start to see, but just because we see it doesn't mean we've changed it, but we start to see how we sabotage ourselves by our thinking, you know, by our very thinking. You know what you're doing, you know what you feel passionate about, but you don't have a belief that you are supported financially by doing that, or that you can be supported financially by doing that. You will be, but it has to be that you believe it and you see it. And that's the entire work that I'm doing. It takes, you come from all different angles, and it takes that repetition and that focus as you're living your life. And that's what I love, is that as your life starts to unfold, Kiki, you'll start to see the universe supporting you as you start to take the steps towards what you want. Always in mind, where am I going? Where am I going? Right? Not, you know, looking left and right and thinking, oh, you know, I often use the analogy with people that if I had a plank between two burning buildings, and I said, look, I want you to walk the plank between, you know, high-rise buildings, most people would go, I'm not interested in doing that. But if I said, look, the burning building that you're walking to has your family in it, and you're the only way they're going to escape, that desire in you is immense. And most people are across that plank before I've even finished telling them what's going on. Right? So all the fears and the things that hold us back, they are only holding us back because they are bigger than our desire.
Yeah.
And our understanding of this whole process. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're coming almost to the end now of the half an hour. I would love if, and we can kind of do it together so that I'm not putting you on the spot, if we were to take, to shoot out 3 major takeaways from our talk in terms of how to actually figure out what it is that you really should be doing and some sort of steps. So I'll take a crack at it first maybe, or I'll try, and then I'll see if I'll get your feedback, or I might need your help. So maybe the first one is actually giving yourself the time and space to dream and think about it, and doing that on a repetitive basis. I would say maybe the second one is working with a coach. I think that that's become really clear, and that's, I know that you genuinely believe that, and I do too, and it's not because you're trying to sell your programs. Like if you look at any successful person, celebrities, all these, like CEOs, everyone works with a coach, so it's really just not like a cheesy gimmicky thing. And then I guess the third one I would say is strengthening your desire and trying to kind of lean into the emotions that provokes. Would that be fair? What do you think the 3 takeaways are?
If the question is how to know what I should be doing, I would definitely say that's the wrong question. in a sense that you have to ask the right question to get the right answer. And the question isn't how to know, you do already know. So the question is more how to get in touch with, because it's already in you. So I want everybody to know that from the outset. You don't need to look outside of you for it. It's in you, okay? And even the space, you need to create enough space in your head to be aware, because all of us feel like we're on this treadmill where, you know, we just do the same thing day in, day out, and, you know, we have full-time jobs and we're doing this and we're doing this and we're going here and going there, which keeps us just on this automatic.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, Paradigm loves that. You're comfortable. But when you start becoming aware of what you're feeling, you know, driving to work, do I love what I do? Why am I spending an hour and a half going there and an hour and a half coming home, hating every minute that I'm there? Is that really living? So you've got to start asking yourself some questions and being honest with yourself about the answers. So that's, I would say, step number one, and being aware of what they are. I definitely would say, if you're serious about making some changes in your life, yes, get hold of a coach that you resonate with. It might not be me, it might be somebody else, but get hold of a coach that you really resonate. Again, how do you feel about them, about the relationship you have with them, about the work they do? Make sure it's somebody that suits you. And yeah, it does, you know, people say I'm trying to sell them. Yes, I am. I am trying to sell them because I absolutely know that this is going to make a difference in their life. And if they stay comfortable, nothing is going to change. I have been back to people and said, okay, we're down the track a year. How are things? They're just the same. You know, they might have moved a little bit here, a little bit there. But if you really want to get in touch with who you are, then yes, highly probably you're going to need somebody in some form to help you get where you want to go. Yeah.
Amazing. Perfect. I think we're all set. I think we have some homework to do.
Yeah. Just look inside. It's there, you know.
Just look inside. Thank you so much, Di. And the next time we'll chat will be 2 weeks from now. So not this Sunday, but next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I so look forward to it. Thank you so much. These chats are really, really valuable, and I really enjoy it.
Love it too. Thank you so much for having me on. Thanks.
Good night.
Goodbye.